Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back into the video. So today we're going to be looking at XRP, Bitcoin, ETH and DOGE. Got a few things to report on. Obviously we've had some positive price action. Let's go, about time. But I want to just preface this video by saying that tomorrow we have CPI news coming out of the US. So it is the most likely time for us to see some sort of volatility in the markets. Second to this, we are at the levels I've been discussing for Bitcoin that are the most likely areas of reversal. So if we bring those two pieces of thought together, could this be an area where people are taking some profits? Short-term reversal. Are we going to see some negativity at CPI? We'll definitely see some sort of volatility, but that could be to the upside. So with all that out of the way and just discussed to start with, so you've got that in your mind, so you don't come on and say, oh, but you said this, you said this, you said this. I wanted to tell you guys that is happening tomorrow, okay? So be aware that tomorrow there is CPI news coming from the US, and it probably, most likely at this point in the market, brings with it some sort of volatility, okay? Could be to the upside, but we do still have this liquidity sitting below us. So that's something we have to keep in mind, but there is a definite argument to say the bottom could be in. We are doing this kind of choppy price action that I don't love though, where you make slightly higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. If you do violate one of these lows, it can quickly reverse to take that liquidity. With that being said, what we want to be seeing to the upside for Bitcoin, this is a break above the 111,003 and then a break of where the structure changed, where we had this dump, remember, on that Sunday night a few weeks ago. That's about 114,300 we need to be closing above, and then we need to close above this high here about 117, and then we're back towards the upside. We can make a good argument then that we are back towards going green. Remember that the daily for Bitcoin though is showing significant liquidity above us rather than that to the downside, and that hasn't changed. So that's what I think is coming next at some point when we start to get this break. I think this price action is just choppy at the minute, but it won't take much if we start to break structure for us to resume that push back towards the upside. 1 second, my computer is going nuts. Let me just move on to silent just for now and see if that makes it different. So that is what I'm looking for there for Bitcoin. Now, if we look at Ethereum, it's a pretty similar picture. There is liquidity. This is a big Ethereum on the daily. We've got liquidity building above us at about 5,001 and 5,005, but we do still have this liquidity pocket below us down towards like 4,000. If we take us to the hourly, what you can see is there is this dense liquidity on the hourly right below us here, which I've been speculating at some point probably gets taken. Now, it does look like the liquidity below at 4,000 is getting less dense in comparison to the liquidity we've got here at about 4,001. So do we come back and wick into that before we continue to the upside again here? That would be logical. But ETH has actually been losing strength against other alts. So I do think there's a scenario where ETH could come and take this liquidity, and other alts hold it pretty strong versus ETH. So let's have a look at what these other alts could be. XRP is the base case of something that I think is looking pretty strong right now. Whether again this continues, we haven't actually yet broken anything key in terms of structure. It's been nice. We've formed a nice bottoming pattern. We have broken out of that bottoming pattern, but we're currently fighting against these previous like swing highs. So we came down, this is the high, and then we created a lower low. We are fighting that high right now, so we need to start breaking these levels. We need to break this level here, start seeing closes above there, and then above here, and then here. So we've got quite a lot of different levels to break. Again, where this structure change came in, and then we're back at all-time highs really. So we have, as you can see, it's a bit of a choppy step back to the upside just to get back to 338. But as soon as we start to get that level broken, then the argument's on as soon as we get here for a new all-time highs, and that is still 10% away. But from the bottom, we are up 11% anyway. So if we get another 10% move, which I think probably comes pretty quickly when you start breaking these resistance levels, then we could argue that all-time highs back on the table. There is some liquidity building below us here for XRP now. We could argue that that could be taken before we go higher, especially if Bitcoin and ETH come down. So it's not time to get 100% definite going to the upside. But as we've been stating, it's more likely now. I think that I've said that XRP I think is leading the market. I still believe that. And then we look on the daily, significant liquidity above us, and over the last 2-3 days, more has been building in here. When we start to break that 340 level there, then this is the all-time high, and we probably resume this march back towards 420, 430, and then realistically 450 is where all this liquidity is sitting right now. Let's see what happens and how quickly that comes. I still think that is what my base case is. Looking at DOGE as the other asset we've got a trade on at the minute. We'll look at DOGE on the daily. We'll look at the hourly first, and then we'll look on the daily. So DOGE is one of those assets that does have this liquidity below us. We do have liquidity down here, but it does look like that liquidity is less strong than it was. Like when we were back in this area here, maybe some people have closed their positions. When we were in this area, that was really red liquidity. If you guys remember, down towards 18 cent, and that seems to have changed. Unless 18 cents is lower down, this is not loading. Oh, hang on. It's because I haven't got 10 highlighted as well. So this liquidity still sits here at about 20 cent and then all the way down to 18. But what you can see is liquidity is building above us, and this is how these things can happen, and these moves, as I say, can reinforce themselves, because you can get into these pockets of liquidity that can squeeze you up, and then you squeeze into the next pocket of liquidity, which could take us up to about 25 to 26 cent. And yes, we could see an argument for a quick reversal to the downside. It does come pretty quickly. Just as Doge moves up quite quickly, price action to the downside does come quite quickly too. But if we get to this 25, 26 cent level, then the questions on and the discussions on, and this is 25, 26 cent here, the discussions on for taking this liquidity and continuing up to the 29 cent. And when you're at the 29 cent level, you're actually making the next high, and then whether you realistically, this pattern here has been making a low, a high, higher low, higher high, higher low. This would make a higher high, and it should then come down to make a higher low if it is going to. But then my discussion would be this area up here, 45 cent, and potentially the swing highs at 48. And then we're looking for all-time highs there for Doge. So getting rid of trading different now. I'm just going to show you what I'm seeing on Doge it's in terms of a technical structure here. The daily, we've had the consolidation really, and we've popped out, and then we're in like a larger sort of pennant pattern. And we're testing that right now. So we've seen the liquidity, and now we're in this pennant pattern here. And then the last real area of this pennant, I would say it's a pennant within a pennant within a pennant, and which could lead to significant price action. My first take profit for Doge is here at the 1.618, which would be around $1.15 to 17. I do think if we start to break into these areas of liquidity, we'll get quite a quick move to the upside. As you can see on the daily time frame, boom, when Doge moves, it is aggressive. And I think similarly for XRP, I think XRP has been, and a lot of alts are showing a similar structure where they've had this like pullback but tight consolidation sort of phase, respecting some sort of downtrend, and then we've had the break. Now we've had the cross on the RSI, some volume support, and I would like to see more. But we could start to see that volume come in as and when we start to break and hold above this cluster of closers here, which I'm talking about. Are we going to hold above these, like this area? We start to close above like this level here. That would be nice. And then the next level is here. And then, as I said, back to all-time highs. That's what we're looking at there with XRP. And Bitcoin's kind of similar in a way. Like we've had this downtrend that we've just been kind of respecting. We've broken out of that. We haven't shown too much volume to the upside, but I think it's time for alts. That's what I've been saying for a while anyway. If we look at XRP against Bitcoin, XRP against ETH, which is what I'm going to do now. So XRP against ETH, we've been really analyzing this chart. So we've been setting lows, highs, higher lows, and higher highs, signaling that we are back in an uptrend now. I highlighted on Twitter today that we've hit the overbought area on the 4-hour RSI. Times in the past when we've done that are like, I'll show you like here, just look at where my dotted line is on screen, pretty much breaking out from the bottom and then seeing a significant rise, whether the majority of this move happened anyway, here again, and then when we went into it again here, and we went into it again here, you can draw these on your own chart as well. We went into it again here, so here as well, and here as well. So like when we start to hit this 4-hour overbought area, it's actually a bit of a signal to me to say, cool, momentum looks like it is pushing back to the upside. And when we get into these positive areas of momentum, it does, and it has led to quite significant price action, as you can see back here. We're still waiting to attack this 0.00071 line, which I think gives us more confirmation back to the upside. But it's definitely positive first steps. I'm going to take my drawings off for a second so you can see on the daily time frame. We do need to clear this level for me to be more bullish. Obviously, that 0.00071, but it's not a negative first step. XRP Bitcoin showing something similar. If I take all these drawings off, these circles are where on the 4-hour we've hit the oversold area, and we hit this oversold area on a significant support. We would like to see the daily have a real good green day today and break this downtrend in the XRP Bitcoin price action. But we have had that bullish cross on the daily RSI as well. XRP dominance, similarly, a descending, narrowing wedge. I think that it's also spelling the argument that back to the upside for XRP dominance potentially here, which I think is supported also by Bitcoin dominance. It's at a decision time right here, and I've said everyone was saying that like, oh, Bitcoin dominance is going to bounce here. Ben Cohen said there's 0% chance Bitcoin dominance doesn't bounce here. And I said, look, nothing's changed yet in my opinion. We'll keep our eye on it, but nothing's changed. And we're coming to the bottom of this like ascending wedge here. If we lose this wedge, then I think this is when alts are going to break out. I do think that we've got a few catalysts that could be positive or negative over the next few days incoming. So it's kind of a time to hold on to your hats and see what happens. It could get very exciting very soon, or we could just have a few more days of chop. Or as the third option is, we could bounce here and go back towards the highs of this Bitcoin dominance wedge and then potentially continue. So we're in that period right now where it's really wait and see. Things are starting to look a bit more positive. We are seeing some alts like Hype, for example, set new all-time highs. That suggests to me that that's Hype's been one of the leaders. Suggests to me that this is bullish price action for altcoins. It's another little poke in the direction of I think it could be time for altcoins to really send it here, or crypto to really expand. But we haven't had any confirmation of that yet. The last two things I want to show you here is XRP against gold here. XRP against gold looks pretty good on the daily. I've not really shown this before. I was just playing around yesterday and I thought, wow, this chart looks pretty decent. We've came back, we back tested a previous range high, held it as support pretty well, had the bullish cross. And the other thing that was interesting to me is that XRP against gold didn't actually, I'll put it on the weekly now, hasn't actually yet set a new all-time high. It actually bounced pretty well off the 702 Fibonacci retracement, and we're still consolidating the retracement levels. If we get that breakout for a 4.236 extension from where we are now, it would be about a 700% outperformance from gold. Obviously gold could come down in price, so if we just say 500 to 600%, that would be bloody nice for XRP prices, the way that I'm going to describe it. So the last thing I said I'd touch on, I'll touch on Doge against Bitcoin. Oh no, Bitcoin and ETH dominance is the other thing I wanted to show you guys. Is that, look, this to me is a bearish parallel channel. The price action is just chopping about. It's not particularly strong here. It looks like with the extreme volume coming in, with the red candles, that I think that this will continue downwards, which would also spell outperformance. Doge against gold is another thing that, like, I think you guys should keep your eye on if you've got a trade on Doge. Again, higher lows and this larger trend with short-term high, low, higher high, and then potential higher low here for a continuation to the upside. And finally, Flare Networks. We've covered Flare a few times. I said I'd do Flare yesterday and never actually got into it. But Flare to me is similar to a lot of alts. We're just consolidating in this larger pennant. If we got a break out of this, it's quite a significant move that we could see to the upside here. Ish be something like this as a minimum target, which would put us into the 16-ish cent, which I don't think is very unrealistic. I think if Flare starts to get a significant break, people are going to be very surprised by the price action and the speed in which this thing can break out. So they're all my thoughts on the market right now. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend. If you want to trade on leverage at all, I have a link to WEX and MEXC in the description section below. If you've got any questions, please do ask them in the comments section. Remember, nothing I say is financial advice. Peace up, A-Town down as crypto, like UK would say.